Chapter 20. The outside of the DeGreasy gallery was done up in what they call understated elegance. The gallery had no name on its window, and only a scrolly gold street number and the single initial D on its heavy carved walnut door. Inside, a gaggle of sallow-faced artsy-craftsy types scurried around, arranging punch bowls and cocktail napkins, just so for a reception to be held that night in honor of Hagar the Horrible and his photographer Dick Brown. I saw Hagar and Brown off to one side chatting with a pair of early bird country bumpkins. At the Rupe's request, Hagar donned his Viking helmet, and he and Brown posed with the two crackers for a photo they could show the folks back home in Podunk, Iowa. As their way of saying thanks, the hayseeds pasted sold labels on Brown's 3 most expensive framed original strips. Must have been a good year for sweet corn. One of the artsy-craftsy types pointed out Lil Roc DeGreasy to me. The guy bore no resemblance whatsoever to his father. Where Rocco had been baked out of bread dough, his son had been carved in spun sugar. His delicate face gave him a boyish vulnerability. I could easily picture him napping at his school desk while his classmates tied his shoelaces together. He sported this season's high-fashion outfit, what I call the flophouse bedsheet look, drab, loose, and wrinkled. I could almost see Rocco DeGreasy rolling over in his grave. "You Little Roc?" "One and the same," he said, without looking at me. He told a pair of pretty young girls to raise up a particular strip and tilt it left, then right, then left again. I swear he put as much sweat into hanging the thing as Dick Brown had put into photographing it. I stuck my license under his nose. "I'm Eddie Valiant, private detective. I'm investigating your father's death." He made a circle with his thumb and forefinger, and his 2 protégés locked their strip to the wall. A bit crookedly, I thought, but I never did have much of an eye for art. "What's to investigate?" Lil Roc asked. "Roger Rabbit did it." "So say the police. I say otherwise." He made a sound halfway between a sigh and a gulp, the sound you hear from somebody who just discovered that the light at the end of their tunnel comes from an onrushing train. "As you can see, I'm awfully busy right now." To illustrate, he took a bunch of strips stacked against the wall and stacked them against another wall. "I've still got scads of work to do before tonight's reception, but I suppose I could spare you a moment. Let me just attend to some details and I'll be right with you." While he got in some last-minute whizzing around, I strolled through the gallery. A sign at the front door listed the photographers the gallery represented. The list included Carol Masters, although as I walked along I didn't see a single one of her photos. Lil Roc rejoined me. "Shall we step into my office?" He indicated a door in the rear. Some office. Storage shed would be more like it. He had framed and unframed strips, cardboard boxes, photos, and assorted papers piled everywhere. It made even my office look neat by comparison. Lil Roc unburied a chair for me, and I sat down. "Sorry for the mess," he said, "but we're terribly cramped for space. I pestered my father for months to enlarge the gallery, but he never saw fit to do so." "You couldn't go ahead without his okay?" "Hardly. My father made all major decisions concerning gallery operation. I did exactly as he told me, no more, no less." He squeezed between 2 filing cabinets and popped back out seconds later, holding a tray of bottles. "Care for a drink?" he asked. He had liquor in about any color you could ask for, except the one I liked best, standard whiskey brown. I told him no thanks. He poured himself 3 fingers of emerald green and added equal portions of lemon yellow, sky blue, and sunset orange. I half expected him to stir it with the Crayola. "Tongues are wagging because I'm here at the gallery today instead of home mourning," he said. "But I consider my father a dreadful tyrant. I'm not the least bit sorry he's dead. He paused to give me a chance to fall off my chair, but even if I'd been so inclined, in that crowded office there just wasn't room. My father continually berated me for being lazy. Actually, I'm not the slightest bit adverse to good hard work, so long as it takes me where I want to go. And where would that be? He gave me a smile chock full of grand plans for better days to come. I long to start my own cartoon syndicate. Nothing as unwieldy as father's. A quality line of high-class strips, built perhaps around a single talented star. But in the meantime, I run this gallery, and I run it well. I turned a profit every month, yet father refused to let me operate as I saw fit. He meddled in gallery affairs to the very end. Lil Roc finished his drink and made himself another, this round switching to blood red straight up. I still can't believe it. After suffering through so many years of his domination, I'm finally free. True, he no longer wore the shackles, yet I had a hunch his body would continue to sag for years from the accustomed weight of the chains. Why do you suspect father was killed by someone other than Roger Rabbit? Because of some things that don't figure. I consulted my notebook. For starters, the day he died, your father wrote a check to a gallery downtown, the High-Tone Gallery of Comic Art. Ever hear of it? Lil Roc laughed dryly. I should say so. It's run by a fellow named Hiram Toner. He has a reputation as a somewhat less than ethical dealer. Exactly what do you mean by that? I mean the provenance of his art warrants extremely close scrutiny. Could you translate that into plain English for me? I finally saw a resemblance to his father in the haughty way he peered at me down his nose. He's a fence for stolen art. I hauled out the photos I had found in Rocco's office. Recognize these? He fanned them out card fashion in front of himself and kept glancing at me over their tops like a riverboat gambler figuring out how to stick me with the old maid. Where did you get them? They were in your father's office. You know what they are? He laid them face up on the desk, arranging them into a pleasing pattern the same way he would have had they been hanging outside on his gallery wall. They were stolen from here about a month ago. Any clue as to who did it? None. I opened up one day, came in, turned off the burglar alarm, took a look around, and saw they were gone. They had been taken right off the wall during the night. The police investigated, but could find no evidence of forced entry. I never did discover how the thieves got in. Who had keys? Only me, and of course my father. I turned the photos over. What about the prices on the back? He perched a pair of tiny half glasses on the end of his nose. These prices are considerably lower than the works are worth. As if the guy selling them might know they're hot? Yes, that's likely the case, said Lil Roc, especially at the High-Tone Gallery. I returned the photos to my pocket. What about Jessica Rabbit? Your Uncle Dominic thinks she was taking your old man for a ride. I couldn't remember right off where I had seen his expression before. Then I placed it. I once had a puppy in love. Shows you how little Uncle Dom knows about women. Jessica is one of the most charming and beautiful ladies I've ever met. She was far better than my father deserved. Chalk up another conquest for Jessica the Juggernaut. You have any idea who will inherit your father's estate? No. Although I suppose it will probably be me. I guess I'll find out for sure tomorrow when they read the will. He didn't seem particularly interested. Maybe he knew about the DeGreasy syndicate's rotten financial shape, that he'd been lucky to inherit carfare home from the lawyer's office. I asked him point blank the syndicate's net worth, but he insisted he had no idea. He contended that his father had always excluded him from the fiscal end of the business. You know if your father had any recent dealings with someone with the initials SS? SS? No, not that I know of. I played a long shot. I noticed from your sign out front that you represent Carol Masters, yet I don't see any of her works out on display. How come? Lil Roc stumbled down into his chair as if somebody had yanked a cork out of his toe and deflated his body by 10 pounds. Father told me to pull them. Why? Lil Roc turned his beautifully manicured hands palms up. I'm not exactly sure. About 6 months ago, Father took a vehement dislike to the woman. I can only guess it's because lately Carol has become a forceful crusader for tunes rights, and Father resented her for it. She's led a contingent of tunes right into Father's office on a quest for higher pay scales and improved working conditions. Lord, I wish I could have been there to see it. I suspect that may have been the final straw. Shortly thereafter, Father began a concerted effort to strangle Carol's career. He spread the word that she had become unreliable, that a high percentage of her work required extensive retouching. He even rejected one of her strips outright, and that's almost unheard of in the industry. Did he have a case? Not that I could see. Carol takes some of the best photos around. I had originally intended to feature her next month in a one-woman show, her first. I had invitations set, flyers printed. When Father found out about it, he was furious. He instructed me to cancel it, and what's more, to remove everything of Carol's from the gallery. How did Carol react when she found out you were scrubbing her show and yanking her stuff? How would you expect? She stormed out of here in a royal tizzy. That was yesterday. When I heard Father had been killed last night, my initial reaction was that Carol Masters had done it. I was actually quite surprised to find out it had been Roger Rabbit instead. You consider Carol Masters capable of murder? Most assuredly. Especially if someone pushed her as hard and as far as my father did. At first I guffawed. Then, when I remembered her eyes, her savage tiger's eyes, I realized that maybe, just maybe, Lil Roc had a point. I played Clue with him for another half hour or so, but when I tallied up my score sheet, I found I was no closer to discovering who had killed Rocco DeGreasy with the gun in the study than I had been when I first walked in.